Listen carefully, because this isn't poetry to comfort you. It's a command. It's a call for you to stop living on your knees before what you see. It's criminal how they never taught you this, because if they had taught you early, you would have stopped asking permission to exist. You would have stopped negotiating with the visible world as if it were the source. You would have understood that the world is the obedient mirror of the state you maintain within. And a mirror doesn't argue, doesn't contend, doesn't explain. It reflects. Look around and realize you live like someone walking with a radio in hand, turning the dial, waiting for the world to deliver the right station. But the world isn't the station. You are the tuner. What plays on the outside is the frequency you maintain on the inside. You can't hear a song of peace while keeping the dial stuck on tension. You can't reap respect while keeping your mind on its knees. You can't live in abundance while maintaining an identity of almost, of one day, of if it happens. And yet you insist on asking for signs, as if a sign could create what you refuse to uphold. You have been conditioned to live like a beggar for proof. You wake up and look for confirmation. You open your phone and look for permission. You look at your bank account and await authorization to feel secure. You look at an unanswered message and decide you're being rejected. You look at your body and decide it won't change. You look at a closed door and conclude it's not for you. And then you call this reality. No, this is merely the delayed echo of the state you've been feeding, often without realizing it, with repetition, with fear, with a silent identity you never chose on purpose. The fundamental truth they hid from you is simple and fierce. Your life doesn't respond to your desires, it responds to your assumed identity. Desire is the perfume of something distant. Identity is the ground your feet stand on. As long as you desire, you confess absence. As long as you desire, you maintain distance between yourself and that thing. The world then gives you more distance, because it wasn't made to reward your anxiety. It was made to reflect your conviction. And conviction isn't a shout. Conviction is permanence. So stop asking, when will it happen? That question is a confessional of powerlessness. Replace it with, who am I being now, because that's where the wheel turns. When you decide who you are before any evidence, you take the only place of power that exists. You stop acting as someone at the mercy of circumstances and start acting as someone who generates circumstances. You choose a state like choosing an outfit, and you wear that state internally. Without euphoria, without drama, without begging the future. You decide and the rest aligns. And don't come with the excuse of, but I have real problems. I know deadlines, debts, diagnoses, silences, people who disappear, broken promises, doors that don't open. But I also know what you pretend not to know. The state is what transforms a problem into a sentence or a bridge. An obstacle is only an obstacle for those who see themselves as small. For those who see themselves as great, it becomes raw material. Life isn't testing you, it's obeying you. It's showing you with brutal honesty what you have been maintaining as an internal truth. Notice the cruelty of the error they taught you. They made you chase after effects and told you to call that effort. You try to fix the shadow by moving the ground, but the shadow isn't on the ground, it's in the position of the light. You try to change the reflection by arguing with the mirror, but the mirror has no will, it obeys. The world isn't a judge that decides if you deserve. It's a messenger that delivers what you maintain. And what you maintain is what you repeat internally, especially when you're tired, frustrated, alone, without an audience, without applause, when no one is watching you. That's when identity appears naked, and it's the naked identity that commands. If you want freedom, start where you are a slave, your internal dialogue. It's not what you say to others that commands, it's what you say when no one is listening. This constant murmur, this invisible caption you place on everything. You might be smiling on the outside and humiliating yourself on the inside. You might be working on the outside and treating yourself as a lost cause on the inside. And the world, which doesn't hear your mask, hears your state. It responds to what you maintain, not to what you pretend. To assume isn't to imagine for a few minutes and then return to the old hunger. To assume is to decide and to remain. To assume is to stop asking and start commanding. Not with magic words, but with internal posture. You don't command the world, you command yourself. You command your interior to stop bowing to what it sees. You command your identity to stop depending on what happens. You command your imagination to be a home, not an escape. And when that happens, the world changes. Not because you conquered, but because you changed your place internally. And the world, like an obedient mirror, is forced to reorganize around your new place. If you want a direct and practical way to maintain this state day to day, click the link in the pinned comment. It guides you with focus exercises and internal discipline so you can stop fluctuating and start living like someone who already has. Use that as training, and you will feel the difference in your own core. Now, with this foundation firmly set, comes the demand that separates the curious from those who truly change. Act as if it already is. And I'm not talking about cheap theatrics to impress anyone. I'm talking about coherence, about aligning your micro-decisions with the chosen state, because your body immediately gives away your lie. Your breathing, your gaze, your rhythm, the way you enter a room, the way you accept crumbs, the way you over-explain yourself, the way you apologize for existing. All of this reveals the state you are inhabiting. Acting as if it already is starts within. Someone who already is doesn't live in urgency. Someone who already is chooses calmly. Someone who already is doesn't beg. They don't chase after crumbs and then call it love. They don't work out of fear and then call it responsibility. Someone who already is moves with substance, not with desperation. Have you seen an old tree in a strong wind? It doesn't scream for the wind to stop. It remains. It bends if it needs to, but it doesn't abandon its own place. This is the energy of the assumed state, flexible on the outside, unshakable on the inside. Observe how this translates into the tangible. You say you want prosperity, but internally you act like someone about to be punished for having what they desire. You say you want respect, but you enter places apologizing with your gaze. You say you want love, but you think and act like someone who will be left at any moment. Acting as if it already is means correcting these invisible gestures. It means answering a phone call without already feeling diminished. It means saying no without fear of losing everything. It means making a decision without mentally asking for approval from 10 imaginary people. It means walking with an open chest, even if the world is still delayed in its response. And understand, coherence isn't exaggeration. Coherence is precision. You don't need to flaunt, you don't need to lie to anyone, you don't need to announce plans. The true as if is silent. It's your internal choice when going through a situation. It's the state you maintain when the world tries to pull you down. It's the way you interpret a look, a delay, a no. Because interpretation is the rudder. Interpretation is where you decide whether to return to the old self or to remain in the new. When you assume, you change the criteria for your day. You stop measuring success by what appeared and start measuring by what you maintained. You don't ask, did the world give it to me? You ask, did I remain? Because the state is discipline, not caprice. There will be days when the evidence seems to provoke you, like a dog barking behind a gate. You will hear the noise of the old world trying to pull you back. And then you decide, do you run to the gate to argue with the dog, or do you cross the yard and continue into the house you chose to inhabit internally? Make small choices that confirm the new self. If you have assumed prosperity, stop treating yourself as a problem. Stop buying out of anxiety and then punishing yourself. Stop accepting humiliation for fear of losing. If you have assumed love, stop monitoring every sign. Stop transforming silence into a sentence. Stop using the other person as a thermometer for your dignity. If you have assumed health, stop making secret agreements with habits that sabotage you and then feigning surprise. The coherence of state isn't grandiose. It is repeated. It is a pattern. And acting as if it already is includes something many cannot bear, knowing how to receive. Many people want the door open, but internally they still shrink when someone extends a hand. They want recognition, but feel guilty when seen. They want abundance, but feel ashamed to desire comfort. This is incoherence. You cannot assume a throne and continue asking permission to sit. Receiving without guilt is declaring, I recognize myself. And if you think acting as if means ignoring the practical world, you've misunderstood. You pay what you need to pay. You organize what you need to organize. You do what you need to do. The difference is internal. You don't do it like a condemned person. You do it like someone in reorganization. You don't view a bill as a sentence. You view it as a detail of a journey. You don't view a difficult conversation as a threat. You view it as a course correction. The external action may be the same. The internal state is different. And it is the internal state that governs what comes next. Now comes the rarest discipline, abandoning appearances. The external world is a delayed stage. It shows yesterday. It shows what you have been maintaining. So when you start to maintain something new, the world will often show the opposite for a while. It will try to seduce you back into the old role. It will offer you proof that nothing has changed. And that's where most people fail. They confuse echo with cause. They look into the mirror and think the mirror dictates the face. It doesn't. The mirror only reflects. Learn to read life symbolically. When a door closes, it doesn't mean it's over. It can mean redirection. When a delay appears, it doesn't mean denied. It can mean adjustment. When someone confronts you, it doesn't mean the world is against me. It can mean the old state is being exposed to die. You are not a victim of signs. You are an interpreter. And the interpreter who chooses the meaning chooses the destiny. I'll tell you about a common scene. You enter a place and feel that you don't belong. No one said anything, there was no offense. But your body already shrinks, your gaze lowers, your voice changes. And, as if on an invisible script, someone interrupts you, someone treats you with haste, someone ignores you. And you say, they are disrespecting me. And I say you entered disrespecting yourself, and the world merely played the role you handed to it. Now imagine the opposite. You enter with the state of belonging. You don't ask for permission with your gaze. You don't beg for space. You occupy it, without aggression, without arrogance, with naturalness. And it's impressive how life starts to treat you differently when you stop treating yourself as an intruder. So stop reacting like an animal. To react is to hand over the steering wheel. To react is to say, what I see dictates me. To govern is to see and not to bow. To govern is to feel emotion rise and not to obey. You can feel fear and still remain in the chosen state. Emotion isn't an order, it's noise. What is law within you is the identity you maintain. I want to give you another image. Think of a thermostat and a thermometer. The thermometer merely shows the temperature, it describes. The thermostat defines and regulates. Most people live like a thermometer. They look outside, describe, complain, repeat. The assumed state is a thermostat. You define internally and regulate the return, even when the environment still shows the old. It's not denial, it's command. You're not pretending it's hot, you're defining the direction of the heating. The evidence comes as a consequence, not as permission. Imagine you lit a lamp in a dark room. In the initial moments there are still shadows because your eyes adjust. You could say, it didn't work, it's still dark. But that would be ignorance. The light is already on. The adjustment takes time. The state is the light. The evidence is the adjustment. Don't turn off the light just because the shadows are still moving. And here's a detail that makes you stumble without realizing it. You try to live the new state, but you keep feeding the old one for entertainment. You consume conversations, news, memories, and comparisons that put you back in the same old vibration. And then you ask why you can't maintain firmness. It's like trying to keep a scent in a room with open windows and wind constantly blowing in. State hygiene is choosing what you allow in. It's choosing who you confide in. It's choosing what you repeat. It's choosing what you watch. Not because the world is dangerous, but because you are training an identity, and identity strengthens with repetition. And when you hear the old thought saying, this is an exaggeration, know this, that's the old self trying to preserve its territory. The old self is a habit. It doesn't die with a speech, it weakens with discipline. And discipline is made of small, constant choices. A higher internal response, a silence where there was once complaint, a gesture of dignity where there was once fear, a pause where there was once impulse. Now, understand the difference between persisting and forcing. Forcing is tension. Persisting is faithfulness. You don't need to be excited all the time. You need to be decided. You don't need to repeat phrases like an anxious parrot. You need to stop harboring the old state. You need to stop paying mental visits to failure, because each visit is a vote. Each rehearsal of tragedy in your head is a signature. And then you wonder why the world delivers the same tragedy to you in new clothes. Faithfulness to the state is when the new self becomes your point of return. You might slip one day, but you return quickly. You might receive bad news, but you don't dwell on it. You might have a heavy morning, but you don't transform that into identity. You learn to come home. And home isn't a place, it's a state. It's the state of it already is. It's the state of it's resolved. It's the state of this belongs to me. The more you return, the more natural it becomes. Naturalness is power. The world bows to what is natural in you. And beware of a subtle poison, using imagination as an escape. Many enter a beautiful scene, feel relief, and soon after return to lack, like someone returning to a familiar cell. Imagination isn't anesthesia. It's an instrument of command. You enter internally into the scene of the end, like someone who has already crossed over. You let your body taste the flavor of the result. And when you open your eyes, you don't return to emptiness. You return to certainty. You don't say, it was just imagination. You say, it was a rehearsal of the real. Because the real is the state, and the state precedes the fact. And stop counting time like someone measuring distance. Counting time is digging up the seed every hour to see if it has grown. You don't accelerate the plant, you suffocate it. The correct attitude is to plant and walk away, to plant and act coherently, to plant and keep the soil clear of doubt. Doubt is a weed, don't negotiate with it, pull it out. If it returns, pull it out again. Your mind is a garden. Either you tend to it or it becomes overgrown. Now I'm going to touch on a point that liberates those with courage. You can redesign the past within you, and by doing so, liberate the future. The past that holds you captive isn't what happened. It's what you keep repeating as an identity story. You describe yourself with what you suffered. You present yourself with what was lacking. You justify your shyness, your anger, your scarcity with an old narrative. And as long as you use that narrative as a badge, you keep the state alive. You need to have the courage to retell. Not to lie to the world, but to change the meaning internally. That humiliation you carry, transform it into a forge. That abandonment, transform it into selection. That delay, transform it into training. You choose the meaning like someone choosing the direction of an arrow. And when the meaning changes, the identity changes. When the identity changes, the reflection changes. There's a simple practice. Before sleeping, take a moment from your day that pulled you back into the old state and rewrite it internally. Not with drama, but with the feeling of what it should have been. Feel yourself responding with firmness. Feel yourself being respected. Feel yourself choosing better. Feel yourself maintaining the state. This isn't nostalgia, it's instruction. You are teaching your interior what the new normal is, and the new normal, when accepted, becomes the standard in the world. And don't underestimate the power of an internal adjustment made in silence. The whole world may see you the same, but internally you have already changed your place. It's like a ship changing its rudder. For a while the horizon looks the same, the water looks the same, but the direction has already been altered. Those who don't understand this abandon early. Those who understand stay, and those who stay arrive. Now stop treating this as beautiful theory. Prove it, test it, conduct small and consistent experiments. Assume something simple and observe. Assume you will be treated with kindness today and walk like someone who expects kindness. Assume a solution appears and act like someone who is already on their way. Assume you are valued and stop offering yourself cheaply. And when life responds to you, don't be surprised as if it were a miracle. Just acknowledge, the mirror reflected. Do this repeatedly, and you will realize that what you call luck is just constancy of state. And when the intermission comes, remember, intermission isn't denial, it's space. It's the place where discipline is measured. Life will show you shadows to see if you turn off the light. Don't turn it off, remain. You don't need to convince anyone. You just need to stay faithful to the state like someone guarding a fire with their own hands. And if you fall, don't make an altar for the fall. Get up and go home. Return to it already is. Do you want to know why I say it's criminal? Because they taught you to be reactive and they called that maturity. They taught you to await authorization and they called that prudence. They taught you to doubt yourself and they called that realism. But realism, the way they sold it to you, is a cult of the past. It's the worship of what has already happened. And you weren't born to worship an echo. You were born to command cause. So I conclude as I began, stop begging for external changes. Stop asking for signs. Choose a state. Wear that state internally. Act as if it already is in thought, in posture, in decision, in silence. And when the old world tries to provoke you, continue. Because what you maintain is what prevails. If you want to consolidate this into daily practice, go back now and click the link in the pinned comment. It was made to keep you firm when evidence tries to hypnotize you, and to give you a simple method to maintain the state until it becomes natural. After that, close everything, breathe and decide, from now on I no longer beg. I command in silence and certainty, and reality obeys. Listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you is not a common teaching. It is a remembrance of what your soul has always known, but the world made you forget. From the moment you opened your eyes on this plane, you were conditioned to believe only in what you can touch, measure, prove. They stole from you the power to see the invisible, to trust what your spirit feels, and that is why so many live like the blind, with eyes open to the world, but closed to inner reality. True vision, the vision that creates, transforms, and reveals, is born within. It is the vision that precedes the miracle, the one that sees what has not yet manifested, but already exists in potential. There is a reason why this knowledge is called forbidden, because when man again sees with the eyes of imagination, he becomes the master of destiny. No system controls him, no authority convinces him that he is small. He knows that everything that exists outside is merely a reflection of what he has sustained within. The world ceases to be an enemy or an accident. It becomes an obedient mirror. What the blind call reality is only what has already been created by those who dared to see first. Therefore, those who master this law do not ask, do not fear, do not wait. They assume. They contemplate the invisible until the visible bows. Inner vision is the throne from which the Creator silently commands, "Let there be." And when the command is sustained with conviction, the entire universe moves to fulfill it. You were made in the image and likeness of the Source, not in flesh and blood, but in consciousness and power. The world is your projection, and every limit you believe you see is merely a reflection of your own doubt. Now the time has come to remember who you are, to close the eyes of the body and open the eyes of the spirit, to stop begging for light and become the sun itself. Because to see with inner vision is to create, and he who creates from within is never a slave to what is outside. The first principle is the foundation of all conscious creation. Reality obeys the sustained image, not momentary appearances. Most people live imprisoned by their senses, reacting to what their eyes show, as if the external world held authority over the internal. But the truth is the inverse. The visible world is merely the mirror of the invisible, and everything that moves within it is a response to the image man holds within himself. You are not what others say, nor what circumstances show. You are what you assume yourself to be, with firmness and feeling. The universe is a living canvas, and every thought sustained with emotion is a brushstroke that shapes your destiny. Imagine for a moment that everything you are seeing now, your house, your clothes, your relationships, your bank account, is the crystallized result of old assumptions you once accepted as truth. You yourself created them, consciously or unconsciously. What you seem to live is merely a reflection of what you were able to see with your inner vision. If, out of fear, doubt, or habit, you hold within you an image of limitation, the entire world will obey that belief and show you lack. But if you dare to change the image, even if everything around you says otherwise, the invisible begins to conspire in your favor. Appearances are merely delayed shadows of what you have already created. Therefore, do not be deceived by the senses. The common man's error is to believe that the mirror creates the face. He sees himself as poor and concludes that poverty is his condition. But it is precisely the opposite. It is the sustained belief in the mind that creates the reflection of scarcity. The mirror merely returns what was shown to it. The wise man, conversely, understands that appearances are transient and that the only true reality is that which is sustained in the imagination with conviction. Do not wait for the world to change to believe. Believe so that the world may change. When appearance challenges you, Close your eyes and contemplate the opposite image. Feel what it would be like to live that new truth. Sustain it within you with calm and certainty until it becomes natural. It is at this point that the world, powerless, begins to yield. Everything visible is subject to the law of assumption, and he who masters this law needs neither luck nor effort, only constancy. The secret lies in not yielding to doubt. Appearances will try to hypnotize you, like voices saying, "It's not possible, there's no way out, you're not capable." But remember, these voices are ancient echoes of the old image that is still dissolving. Remain firm in the new vision, like one who guards a flame in the midst of a storm. Time is merely the interval between the invisible and the visible. If you remain faithful to your inner vision, the world sooner or later will be compelled to reflect what you carry within. He who understands this principle ceases to react and begins to command. He stops begging for signs and begins to create them. When man silently sustains the image of what he has chosen to be, he speaks in the language of the gods, and the world, obedient, responds. Because reality is not a cause, it is an effect, and what you sustain within yourself is the seed of everything that will come to fruition. The second principle is to understand that imagination is the true eye of the spirit. The body sees forms, colors, and distances, but it is imagination that sees essence, meaning, and destiny. Everything that has ever existed in this visible world was first born in an invisible one, the silent field of the mind. A house begins with an image, an invention with a vision, a healing with faith in something not yet manifested. Nothing can emerge if it is not first seen inwardly. Therefore, the man who has learned to imagine correctly possesses the power to shape the world without moving a single stone. The ancients knew that imagination is not fantasy, but creation in its pure state. When you imagine, you are not dreaming, you are planting. Every scene sustained with feeling is a seed that germinates in the invisible and in due time breaks through the soil of reality. But most people imagine unconsciously. They see what they fear, what they lack, what they judge impossible. And without realizing it, they create exactly what they most wish to avoid. It is not about visualizing out of whim, but about inwardly inhabiting the desired state until it becomes real within you. Inner vision is like a magical mirror. Everything you contemplate in it with faith returns to you in the form of experience. But this mirror does not respond to fleeting thoughts. It responds to the constancy of your attention. What you repeatedly contemplate with emotion transforms into law for your world. And the more real it seems within you, the more inevitable it will be externally. There are no limits to what you can see inwardly, except those you accept as truth. What the eyes deny, imagination corrects. What the world calls a problem, imagination dissolves. When you learn to close the eyes of the body and open those of the spirit, you cease to be a victim of circumstances and become their creator. It is in this silent state, between thought and feeling, that power manifests. Create within you an image so clear that the external world seems merely a pale shadow before it. Do not ask yourself how it will happen, because the how belongs to the law. Your work is merely to see, feel, and sustain. When imagination is firm, reality obeys. Circumstances, people, and events rearrange themselves in perfect harmony with the picture you hold within. And if you doubt, look around. Everything that exists, every building, every work of art, every achievement, began as a vision. What man sees with his eyes is limited. What he sees with imagination is infinite. That is why masters never react to what the world shows. They see beyond the visible, and it is this beyond that moves the world. He who learns to imagine consciously never despairs again. He knows that the invisible is more real than the visible. He lives with serenity, because he has already seen the end from the beginning. And when inner vision is sustained with love and certainty, time bends, the impossible dissolves, and the world, obedient, bows before the one who dared to see with the eyes of the soul. The third principle is to understand that emotion is the seal of creation. The mind imagines, but it is the heart that gives life to the image. Without emotion, inner vision remains merely a soulless drawing, a shadow without force. Everything that truly manifests carries the scent of the feeling that originated it. That is why many imagine what they desire, but few make it real, because they do so in a cold, distant, mechanical way. Creation does not respond to logic, it responds to vibration. When you feel something with intensity, the energy of the universe recognizes that state and begins to give it form. Every feeling is a silent command issued to the invisible. If you imagine prosperity but feel fear, you create fear. If you imagine healing but fixate on doubt, you sustain the illness. But when you imagine and feel as if it were already real, when your emotion aligns with your vision, the invisible bows and begins to work in your favor. Emotion is the fire that makes the word become flesh. It is not enough to inwardly see the desired scene. You must feel it to the point where the body reacts as if it were true. Let the heart quicken, let a smile emerge, let your breath change. In these moments, the universe recognizes you as a conscious creator. The vibration of certainty is the language through which the invisible comprehends your intentions. And the purer and more constant that vibration, the more quickly the visible world will reflect what you carry within. Emotion is also the test of your faith. You can say you believe, but it is what you feel that reveals what you truly assume. The man who says, "I am prosperous but feels needy," continues to create need. The man who says, "I am loved but lives with fear of loneliness," continues to manifest absence. Words create nothing if they are not sustained by the corresponding feeling. Therefore, emotion is the seal. It confirms before the invisible the state you inhabit. Feel what you desire with anticipatory gratitude. Live the result before it appears. Imagine your victory, your abundance, your peace, and feel as if it were now. Do not wait for the world to give you reasons to feel. Feel, and the world will hasten to give you proof. The heart is the portal that connects the invisible to the visible. Everything that passes through it becomes alive. Those who understand this principle do not ask, do not plead. They feel. Feeling is pure prayer, and sustained emotion is power in action. When inner vision unites with the deep feeling of reality, there is no force capable of preventing its manifestation. Time merely adjusts to the dominant vibration. Therefore, pay more attention to what you feel than to what you think. Thought shapes the image, but feeling brings it to life. And he who masters his emotions masters creation, for he moves the invisible not with words, but with the silent frequency of certainty. The fourth principle is to understand that faith is not hope, it is recognition. Many ask, few assume. True faith does not implore for something to happen. It rests in the knowledge that it has already happened. When you pray by asking, you assume absence. When you assume in silence, you recognize presence. Faith is living the invisible as fact before the world confirms it. It is walking in the dark with the same certainty as one who sees the sun. The human mind, bound by time, believes that reality is something that will come, but the spirit which dwells in eternity knows that everything already is. The man of faith does not wait. He naturally lives the desired state as if nothing were lacking, and it is this naturalness that draws the invisible into the visible. When you assume the state of inner possession, the universe begins to silently rearrange itself around that vibration. Circumstances change, people emerge, doors open, not by chance, but by response. Faith is the art of resting in certainty. It is not about mental effort, but inner stillness. When man believes partially, he struggles against what he sees. When he believes fully, he rests because he knows that the visible is merely the delayed shadow of the invisible. Time becomes merely a servant and no longer an obstacle. That is why those who truly believe radiate an inexplicable peace, because they have already seen the end from the beginning. Faith is the assumed state. If you desire prosperity, do not ask for it. Live as one who is already prosperous. If you desire love, do not plead. Feel yourself loved now. The vibration you sustain is the silent decree that the universe obeys. Nothing more is needed beyond inner conviction. The visible world is an obedient machine, responding faithfully to the tone of your consciousness. But to do this, one must renounce doubt, and that requires courage. Doubt is the voice of the old identity trying to survive. It will say that it is impossible, that you have no proof, that you are deceiving yourself. Ignore it. Each time you remain faithful to your new assumption, even without external signs, your faith is strengthened. It is in this fire that the Creator is forged. Faith is silent power. It is dominion over appearance. It is the knowledge that the invisible is more real than the visible. The man who lives by faith is no longer shaken by what he sees, because he has learned to see with the eyes of consciousness. And he who sees with consciousness creates. Thus, for one who truly believes, there are no impossibles, only stages of manifestation. Everything seen now was one day assumed by someone who dared to believe. And he who dares to believe today will inevitably see tomorrow the fruit of what he silently sustained within himself. The fifth principle is persistence, the silent secret that separates those who merely imagine from those who truly create. Many begin the journey of inner vision with enthusiasm, but give up at the first denial from the world. They sustain the new image for a day, perhaps a week, and when nothing seems to change, they yield to doubt and return to the old identity. And it is at that instant that the invisible, which was already moving, retracts. Persistence is the proof of faith. It is the fire that purifies vision and transforms assumption into reality. You need to understand that creation is not an instantaneous act, but a continuous state. Everything that has been assumed in the invisible needs time to crystallize in the visible, just as a seed needs silence and patience to break through the earth. He who understands this law does not despair over time. He trusts in it. Time is merely the interval between what already is and what is not yet seen. To persist is not to repeat mechanically. It is to remain emotionally faithful to the desired state, even when the world seems to mock you. It is to look at the opposing reality and still keep your heart anchored in inner vision. While the common man reacts to appearances, the Creator remains unmoved in his knowing. He does not need to convince anyone. He knows that the invisible is more real than any momentary evidence. Each time you doubt, you unravel the thread of creation. Each time you sustain, you strengthen the bridge between the invisible and the visible. That is why true power belongs to the constant, not to the impulsive. The universe does not respond to fleeting enthusiasm, but to unwavering conviction. He who persists in his assumption, even in the face of the world's silence, has already won. There is no circumstance that can resist a consciousness faithful to its vision. Even if everything seems to collapse, remain steadfast, because as long as you remain, invisible forces move, realities rearrange themselves, and the impossible begins to lose substance. The world has no choice but to reflect what you insist on sustaining. Persistence dissolves doubt because it creates familiarity. What once seemed distant becomes natural. And when something becomes natural within you, the universe recognizes it as law and manifests it effortlessly. The secret is to persist until the new vision becomes your second skin, until doubting seems absurd. The master does not win because he knows more. He wins because he never yields. He understands that all creation requires faithfulness. Thus, when the world screams no, he smiles in silence, for he has already seen the yes within himself. And that is why the persistent one, even amidst the storm, walks like one who has already arrived. He knows that the invisible does not fail, and when his consciousness refuses to retreat, the world itself bows before the force of what was sustained with faith, emotion, and constancy. Now that you have heard, keep silent what has been said, for these are not common words, they are keys. The world around you is merely a reflection of what you dwell within. There are no external enemies, nor opposing forces beyond those your mind feeds. Life is an obedient mirror that reflects the inner image you sustain with the most conviction. And at every moment you are creating, consciously or not. The difference between the sleeping man and the awakened one is that the former reacts, the latter assumes. Do not ask the world to change anymore. It can do nothing for you as long as you remain the same internally. Change your state, and everything around you will adjust. Poverty, fear, loneliness, failure, all dissolve when you stop fighting with shadows and begin to ignite the light of consciousness. Assume now the state of the being you wish to manifest and remain in it as one who wears their true skin. You were made in the image of the Creator, and that image is not physical, it is consciousness. The same power that moved the heavens dwells within you, waiting to be remembered. When you close your eyes and assume that you already are, the universe listens to your silent voice and begins to obey. No obstacle is greater than your assumption maintained with faith. Therefore, from this moment on, stop begging for signs, answers, and proof. You are the living proof of creative power. Command in silence with serenity and certainty, and the world will respond. Live as one who already possesses, love as one who is already complete, act as one who has already won. And when you realize, the invisible will have become flesh before you, not by chance but by law. Awaken, Creator, remember who you are. Everything already is and everything is within. Sustain your inner vision with emotion, faith, and persistence, and you will see the world bow before your awakened consciousness. Because he who sees with the eyes of imagination governs the invisible, and the invisible inevitably governs the visible. Silence, listen, and not with the ears of the body, but with the space that exists behind thought, because what I am about to tell you is not to be understood. It is to be remembered. There are truths that are not learned, they simply awaken, and this is one of them. Before I go, I must record what I never dared to utter while time still belonged to me, not out of cowardice, but out of compassion. Humanity, in its haste and fear, would have transformed the sacred into a formula, the mystery into superstition. But now, as the veil begins to fall and the eyes of consciousness open, I can finally say what has always been burning within me. The secret of creation is not in God outside of you, it is in the God you forgot you are. For ages, humanity worshipped the reflection and forgot the source. It called the frozen dream of its own imagination reality. It fought against shadows, believing in enemies it itself invented. It pleaded with the heavens, unaware that the heaven that answers lies within. And for this, it suffers and prays and toils without rest, trying to fix the world, when all it needs to do is remember that the world was never the cause. The world is the effect. You believe you live surrounded by solid forms, by people and events external to your will. But I tell you, there is no outside. Everything you see is the mirror of the state you silently maintain. The walls, the faces, the words you receive. Everything is the echo of what you have accepted as true within. The beggar and the king live under the same sun. They have simply chosen different inner kingdoms. Humanity fears the invisible because it does not control it. But the invisible is the only place where life truly happens. Everything that exists before being seen was felt. Before being born in time, it was born in the heart. Every gesture, every coincidence, every destiny is merely the surface of a vibration secretly sustained. And that is why I say, what I am about to reveal is not a technique nor a philosophy. It is the very mechanism of divine creation disguised within human consciousness. The secret that prophets veiled in parables, that mystics hid between the lines, that the scriptures whisper in silence when no one reads them with their eyes but with their spirit. Humanity seeks power in altars, in mountains, in masters. But power has always been in the instant it dares to feel. I am. Because this I am is the name no tongue can corrupt, the name of the Creator himself, pulsating within you, waiting to be remembered. This is what I never said until now, because the world still loved the slavery of appearances. But you, who have come this far, already feel the call of the invisible. And to you, finally, I can confess. There is no distance between you and God, there is only forgetfulness. And it is this forgetfulness that humanity calls ordinary life. Everything you imagine with feeling is decreed. This is the law that governs the invisible and sustains the visible. There is no judge, no delay, no intermediary. Felt thought is an order given to the universe. But humanity, ignorant of its power, imagines fear, feels loss, relives pain, and calls the result reality. Creation does not distinguish between what is desired and what is feared. It merely obeys the vibration of the feeling you hold as true. That is why so many live in circles, asking for liberation while imagining captivity, pleading for healing while nourishing sickness in their minds. The universe does not respond to words, but to the invisible tone that vibrates within them. When I say that imagining is decreeing, I am not speaking of simple daydreaming. To imagine is to live internally what does not yet exist in time. It is to wear the desired state until the body believes it. It is to make the inner vision so real that the world, incapable of contradicting the conviction of the spirit, bows before it. When you imagine and feel, the invisible begins to move. Every cell responds, every event reorganizes itself, every person becomes an instrument to fulfill what has been decreed within you. There is no randomness. There is only correspondence between what you are in consciousness and what the world needs to mirror to maintain the harmony of the law. But there is a detail few understand. Imagining is not forcing a desire. It is being what the desire. It is becoming internally what you seek externally. The common person imagines what they want but continues to feel lacking. The Creator imagines what they are, and the feeling of silent possession becomes a fertile seed. This feeling, that of already being, is what separates the dreamer from the Creator, for dreaming is wishing, creating is assuming. The world will teach you to work, to fight and to wait. But nothing in time can contradict what has already been established outside of it. The invisible is more real than the concrete because everything solid was born from an invisible image sustained until it became form. When you understand this, you stop chasing effects and begin to touch the cause. You stop asking and begin to command. You stop seeking and begin to remember. So when doubt comes, and it will come, do not fight it. Simply return to the image, to the feeling, to the silent certainty. It is already so. This is the point of power. Everything that is created is born from a consciousness that refuses to waver, because the universe does not understand perhaps. It only understands what humanity feels as truth now. Thus is the law. What you imagine with your heart, the world hastens to manifest. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can prevent the realization of what was felt as fact in the silence of being. You are the state you inhabit, and the world cannot deny you. This is the truth that separates the awakened from the asleep. Every human being lives within a state of consciousness, a vibration, an inner atmosphere that determines the tone of everything around them. It is not the name you carry, nor the work you perform, nor the circumstances that surround you that define your life. It is the silent state you occupy when no one is looking. Humanity is always faithful to the state it assumes as its own, and the world, like an obedient mirror, merely reflects this state in the form of facts, people, and events. The most common error is to believe that the state is a consequence of external conditions. But it is the opposite. Conditions are born from the state. The poor man who dreams of being rich while continuing to feel small continues to feed poverty. The sick man who pleads for health but constantly speaks of his illness keeps it alive in his body, because every word, every gesture, every thought confirms the state in which he has chosen to remain. You can change cities, professions, even your appearance, but if the inner state is the same, the new scenery will soon become identical to the old. To change one's state is to die and be reborn in an instant. It is to cross the invisible frontier between the old and the new self. It is not a change of appearance, but a change of vibration. When you change your state, the world changes with you. Not because the world itself has transformed, but because you, by shifting your focus of consciousness, have entered another dimension of the same reality, one where circumstances respond to the new being you have chosen to be. The universe has no power to deny an assumed state. It merely echoes what you vibrate, with mathematical and inevitable precision. Therefore, when you declare, "I am loved," the world hastens to confirm it. When you say, "I am forgotten," the universe sends people and events that uphold that belief. Every reaction you have, every emotion you choose to repeat, reinforces the state you inhabit. And as long as humanity continues to react to the world, instead of commanding it from within, it will live as a shadow of itself. True power is not in resisting circumstances, but in ignoring them. It's not about pretending, but about remembering. Remembering that external reality is merely the echo of what you have silently decided to be. When humanity understands this, it stops fighting the reflection, and begins to change the face that projects it. You are the state. Nothing outside of you has the authority to contradict what you are in consciousness. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are now will determine the scenario in which you awaken tomorrow. To kill the old self before the new one lives, this is the sacrifice few have the courage to offer. Humanity wants transformation, but fears the death of what keeps it known. It wants freedom, but clings to the chains of its old identity. And that is why most speak of change, but remain the same. The old self does not die with time. It dies with decision. And this death is not symbolic, it is real, painful, silent. It is the instant you renounce the security of who you were to inhabit the unknown of who you choose to be. The mind resists. It will say, but what if I am wrong? And what if nothing changes? And that is where the old identity defends itself, fearing its extinction. Because it only exists as long as you believe in it. Everything you call I is merely a construct sustained by memory and habit. When you refuse to relive the same emotions, to repeat the same thoughts, the old begins to crumble. And in the void that emerges, the new is born. But humanity fears the void, and by trying to fill it with memories, it gives power back to the past that imprisons it. To kill the old self is the purest act of faith, because it is to jump without seeing the ground. It is to abandon the references, the justifications, the labels, and the stories you have told yourself to explain why things are the way they are. It is to look within and say, I am not what I remember. I am what I choose to be now. This is true resurrection, not a distant metaphor, but a living, present process that repeats every time humanity dares to break free from the prison of its own image. There is no rebirth without death. The new cannot inhabit a body full of memories of the old. Therefore, before creating something, you must die to what contradicts it. It is not about denying the past, but about shedding it. When you stop reacting as before, when you remain silent in the face of insult, when you forgive what once hurt, when you act as one who has already won, the old dies a little more and the new begins to breathe. And then the world, confused, tries to remind you of who you were. Friends, family, circumstances, all will test the solidity of the new state. But he who does not yield, who does not turn back, will see the old reality dissolve like mist. The old self does not disappear with a single gesture. It disappears with constancy. Close your eyes and dare to forget who you were. Forget the name, the role, the fear. Let everything fall away, for only when nothingness envelops you can God fill you. He who has the courage to die in consciousness is reborn in power, and the world, without understanding how, begins to treat him as the new being he has chosen to be. Sustained imagination is the perfect prayer. Everything humanity calls prayer is in truth an attempt to feel what does not yet exist in time. But few understand that true prayer is not asking, it is assuming. The universe does not hear words, it hears vibration, and all vibration is born from a feeling. Therefore, when you close your eyes and internally live the scene you desire, feeling it with such intensity that your body believes it, you have already prayed, and the answer at that exact instant has already begun to move towards you. There is no need for long speeches, pleas, or rituals. God is not in gestures or repetitions. He is in the silence that exists between one thought and another, in that brief instant when you forget the world and become pure consciousness. It is in this space that the impossible is shaped. What you call imagination is not a mind game. It is God's workshop within you. When you imagine something with clarity, imbuing it with feeling and certainty, you are creating in the invisible substance that precedes form. But the most common error is to imagine and then doubt. It is to pray and then observe the world, expecting proof. This gesture dissolves creation. True prayer ends when you feel you have already been heard, and by feeling, you let go. Because letting go is not giving up. It is recognizing that the work is already done. The when belongs to humanity. The it is already so belongs to the Creator. Every image sustained with emotion is a seed sown in the soil of consciousness. Some germinate quickly, others sleep beneath the earth until the gardener, instead of pulling them up out of impatience, waters them with faith. And this faith is not optimism. It is knowing. Knowing that the invisible is more real than the concrete, and that what has been felt in the spirit will inevitably emerge in matter. When you imagine with faith, you are not asking for something to come to you. You are becoming the one who already possesses it. And the physical world obediently merely recognizes you. This is why some call a miracle what in truth is simply a law running its course. So when you close your eyes, do not imagine to escape what is. Imagine because you are. Enter the scene. Live it. Breathe it. Cry with gratitude even before you have it. Feel the texture, the sound, the weight of what is already yours in the invisible. And when you open your eyes, do not look for signs. Walk as one who has already received. Because the universe has no other choice but to confirm the conviction of one who imagines and believes. Persist. This is the last word I can leave you with, and perhaps the most difficult of all. Because the world will test what you declare yourselves to be. It will whisper doubt, disguise itself as failure, clothe itself in silence and absence. And he who does not understand the law will return to despair, believing that nothing happened. But what humanity calls delay is merely the resistance of its own mind to accept the new state as fact. Nothing is against you. It is you who have not yet fully surrendered to what you have already created. Persist, even when everything seems to deny what has been assumed. When money is scarce, remain in the consciousness of abundance. When your body aches, remain in the consciousness of health. When love seems distant, remain in the consciousness of being loved. The law does not fail, but humanity tires before it completes its cycle. The invisible requires constancy to condense into form. And each time you doubt, you break the nascent form and restart the process. Faith is not emotion. It is discipline. It is to remain silent when everything shouts the opposite. It is to keep the inner gaze fixed on what has already been decreed, even if the world collapses around you. He who persists, even without seeing, forces the invisible to yield. Because the universe does not resist an unwavering mind, the test will come inevitably, and it will not be in a moment of light but in the dark night. It is when nothing moves, when everything seems lost, that the Creator observes if you have learned to persist. If at that instant you retreat, the old will return and take its place. But if you stand firm, unmoving in faith, the world will begin to change before you, like a stage setting that bows to the silent command of the actor who has not forgotten their role. Persist in the chosen state. Nourish it with gratitude, with the serene certainty of one who knows they have already been heard. Time is merely the space the invisible needs to become visible. Do not ask for more haste. Ask for strength to sustain what already is. And when the day comes and reality finally yields, you will understand what I tried to say with my entire life. Creation never fails. It is humanity that gives up. Therefore, persist. Even if it hurts, even if it seems late, even if no one understands. Persist until the impossible surrenders, because he who does not give up on being becomes what he is. And he who remains faithful to the invisible until the end awakens and realizes, the whole world has always been waiting for only one command, the command of your state. Now look at me. If tomorrow my body falls silent, know this: I never left. What speaks through me cannot die, because it was not born. It is life itself speaking to you, reminding you of what time made you forget. Humanity does not need to learn to create. It needs to remember that it is already creation and creator at the same time. Everything you seek outside is a shadow of what already exists within. The love you ask for, the peace you implore, the power you envy, everything lies dormant within you, awaiting only the silent command of recognition. Ask no more. Command. Wait for no more signs. Create them. Pray not as servants, imagine as gods. When you understand this, you will see that the world is not an enemy, but a reflection. That pain is not punishment, but a call. That nothing happened to you by chance. Every event was merely the mirror of what you silently sustained. And when, finally, you look at life with the eyes of the Spirit, you will realize that the secret was never in me. I merely guarded it until humanity was ready to hear it, not on bended knee, but standing tall as an heir. Now you know. Power does not come from outside. It awakens when you say with full conviction, I am. And in saying so, everything smaller than this truth begins to dissolve. Fear dissipates, doubt silences, and the world bows. Because I am is the name of God pronounced in the temple of humanity. Remember this, you are the Word made flesh. The world is the word you speak every day with your feelings, your reactions, your thoughts. If you want to change what you see, change what you say, in silence. And when the present scene dissolves and the impossible becomes common, you will understand what I tried to convey with every gesture, every silence, every glance. The secret I guarded until my last breath now belongs to you. Live as one who already is. Create as one who never doubts. And remember, nothing is outside. Everything, absolutely everything, has always been within.